Text me. Can you zoom in?
I'm done texting him. I'm super fucking annoyed.
All right, you guys are good to go.
We're good to go. This is Live from the Table, the official podcast of New York's world-famous Comedy Cellar, coming at you on Sirius XM 99 Raw Dog and the Laugh Button Podcast Network. This is Dan Natterman. By the way, does Raw Dog have any other meaning other than unprotected sex? Is there any other meaning for the phrase raw dog?
I don't know. I wish I had some kind of technology that I carried around in my pocket.
Well, I thought maybe you knew offhand. I'm just saying.
I really have no. I guess I have to go to the library and look at microfiche. I'll never be able to figure that out.
I thought you might have known offhand.
No, it's a fair question. Raw dog. Let's look it up right now, ladies and gentlemen. Raw dog food. Like Google. You know, I like the autocomplete, but sometimes like I don't need you to add words. Google. To have sexual intercourse without natural or synthetic lubrication.
Oh, what do you mean without natural?
What do you mean without natural? Dry, without natural or synthetic lubrication.
But doesn't your body produce lubrication?
Well, not when Noam's involved.
I've never seen that. What are you talking about? How does that happen? But I thought raw dog meant without a condom. I didn't.
Well,
know.
it might have had. The point I'm making is.
So it does have another meaning, yeah.
Yeah, but the other meaning is very close to the meaning that we thought. In other words, look, this is Raw Dog Radio. Let's face it, and we're bringing in these intellectuals, and it feels off brand. But anyway.
Well, today you have me as your resident intellectual.
Perry L. Ashenbrand is here, as you have ascertained. He is our producer. Noam Dorman, of course, the owner of the Comedy Cellar. We were supposed to have Aruba Ray Ellin in.
I'm in the Raw Dog house tonight because Ray Ellin. I think this is the first. We've never had a guest cancel 10 minutes before the show before, and
to be
refused
fair,
to
it was
answer text
about
messages.
an hour before that he first.
Was it an hour?
It was actually about 30 minutes.
No, I didn't hear about it till around 10 minutes.
No, it was 30 minutes.
Well, whenever, yes, Ray Ellin canceled.
In a huff.
He felt that he had little to gain by being on the show, and quite frankly, he probably did have little to gain by being on the show.
So this is what happened. So I don't know. First of all, I'm so stressed. I took a shot of vodka. So, but I don't know. So last week we were like Ray Ellin kind of came at me. Nicole, you need a mic.
She doesn't want to get dragged into.
How do you know what she wants?
Because I've asked her every single show.
That's just, sometimes girls play hard to get. So Nicole,
what is she wearing though? Is the real question.
But last week, Nicole, just come here, just stand up so I can see you.
I do have a mic also.
She has a mic.
I do. I just keep quiet.
Okay, Nicole's our audiologist, or I don't know what you call it. So, our engineer. So, do you remember last week's show?
Yes.
So, do you remember last week Ray Ellin came at me about how much money I was making from the TV show?
Yeah.
What's your recollection of that?
That you were on very different pages about it.
But why did he bring it up to begin with?
Well, what happened was you snapped at him for texting whilst we were on doing the show, and you said you're never coming back. And
I was joking.
You
obviously.
were joking, but he took it seriously.
Okay, so no. You think for a comic who tells rousting jokes for a living, he would know not.
You did sound serious.
I was serious, and I was annoyed that he was texting, but I wasn't never coming back. But go ahead, Nicole.
I thought it started with the website, like that's where the beef started, and it somehow escalated into that.
All right, so that's very good. See, I'm happy. See, so he started by saying, your website sucks. Like
you had said that his website
had a bad.
.co. You were making fun of his .co first, which he didn't,
No, because he actually texted me saying, you should really take care of your website.
Okay.
And I said, you text me about taking care of my website, and you have .co. But then so you're right. So then he said the website was bad. But this is all okay. And then go ahead, Nicole. Go ahead.
I don't really remember how we got there. I just remember the website, and then
we got there when you said. You're never coming back on the show again. He took it more seriously than you meant it. He said, really, well, you don't have me on very often, and which is pretty shitty because I did this, helped you with your show. So
he said because I'm a good guest. And he said that again. He said that he was upset because every time he gets invited on, it's to like defend himself against something.
Well, no, last time, first of all, that's that's the kind of logic that you go to couples therapy over, because he had a fight with Paul Mercurio, right? Who was the fight with?
I had a fight with Paul Mercurio.
Who did Ray have a fight with? Ray had a fight with somebody.
Who's Paul Mercurio?
Anyway, so it's all jumbled in my head. But anyway, the point is this: he did what I thought was crossing a line that everybody knows. He brought up our private financial business, my private financial business, even though he got it wrong. And he said that I made, and he said $1 million, which is far from the truth, off this TV show, which he claimed, I don't remember, what did he say? Because it's hard for me to distinguish between what I know that he thinks and has said in the past and what he said on the show. Did he say that he got the show? What did he say?
I really don't want to be involved in having this discussion because he's not here. I know he's not here voluntarily.
Well, he could be here.
But nonetheless...
Dan, say the real reason you don't want to be in conversation. Because he's your friend. You don't want to get in trouble with him.
Well, yes, he
That's
is
fine.
my friend. And, and I am on record as saying I believe his role in the show was substantial in getting it on the air.
Listen, I like Ray a lot. This has nothing to do with
love Ray
him personally. I'm just annoyed that we're stuck here without a fucking guest now.
All right. So anyway, so he got.
Even though I actually quite like doing it.
So
like
to be honest, I was a little miffed that he said that about the show and about the money, as if the way I read it. And Nicole, you correct me. Nicole, I like your point of view. You correct me if I'm wrong. As if he resented the fact that I made more money than he did. Mm-hmm. As if the guy who, now this may not be, what I might say now might not be fair to Ray, so Dan, you feel free to defend him. I'm telling what I took it as, but I'm reading mine, so I could be totally off. But I took it as if, let's say for the sake of argument, I made $1 million from that show.
Okay.
Okay, this was my end of the show. I thought of the idea. I own the club, and I thought of the idea, and I own the club. I brought the show to various people, and I guess I told him about the show when he introduced me to this guy Michael Hirschhorn. I think that's what happened, and Michael Hirschhorn sold the show to Comedy Central because he used to work at VH1 for the guy who was then at Comedy Central. That's what Ray did. On what planet, in terms of ordinary course of business, would our compensation not be wildly different?
Well, just a couple of points. I don't think he resented you making more.
Then why does he constantly bring it up?
Because I think he wants a little bit of gratitude on your part that you did make a lot.
I made a few $100,000, to be honest. That's what I made.
I don't
over,
think it
over 3
matters.
years.
I don't think it matters
But
how
also
much
I
you made.
think-
Wait, and nor is it any
Not
of
that that's a
anybody's
small
business.
amount of money, but I don't know. I don't know what he made. He made real
but
money.
I think when you say that he introduced you to Michael Hirschhorn and you leave his contribution at that, I think you underestimate it because he kept it. As I recall, there was about 2 years elapsed between the initial meeting with Michael Hirschhorn and the thing getting on the air, and I believe he kept it alive during that time. Through various means.
Maybe
this would be nice if he were here to.
Maybe I don't know, but maybe he did. I don't know anything about that.
Because I don't think it was just quite as easy as okay, good idea. Let's do it. I think it needed a lot of maintenance along the way.
Like what?
Well, this would be something that he could discuss. But I
And
mean,
by the way, this show idea was so hot that literally I got cold calls from other production companies who heard about the idea and wanted to allow me to let them to sell it.
This is what I want to say. I think that I'm annoyed that Ray's not here. I don't think it's fair that he didn't show up. But I also, and I love him, but like I get it, he's upset. But I also do want to say this. I don't know all the crazy Michigas bullshit here, but
We've also had complaints about the show being too Jewy.
But
well, that's my complaint.
But I do think that you're generally a very fair person.
Oh my God, Periel.
So
what are you going to ask me for?
No, nothing. But so, like, I feel like maybe Ray's feelings are hurt.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I re-listened to the end of the show, even though it was Periel's idea to air it.
Oh, will you knock it off?
I felt that guy Bloom. What was his first name?
Paul.
Paul. I was going to say Paul, but I was afraid I was getting it wrong. 'Cause we had another guest, Arthur Bloom, one time.
He had a great time, by the way. I'd like to.
That Paul
Is he gonna
Bloom
text it?
was kind of
He
like
did. He tweeted.
who's like a major world-class intellectual, was kind of called into this dysfunctional spat, and I was a little embarrassed by it. So I so I feel like I wanted to explain to him, listen, don't mind us, we're a bunch of idiots, and so then you said we should air it out, and then I at the end I guess I said I felt like I just wanted to like troll Ray a little bit.
Okay. Well, are you apologizing?
I guess I'm not gonna claim total innocence here, but I don't feel I was the aggressor.
Okay, but you're apologizing a little bit.
No, I'm not apologizing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm
Okay.
not sorry.
We can circle back.
Well, if I had it to do over, what would I do differently? I would have still told him not to text message. I would still made fun of him because, as he knows better, see, Dan's texting now.
No,
As
I wasn't not
as
texting.
he-
But what I'm doing is no better than texting.
Yeah, but it's distracting. But as he knows better than anybody, as a performer, that when you're involved in something, you're supposed to have fidelity to the enterprise. So, like if a customer's looking through their phone while he's on stage, he's going to refer to it. If you're alone in a room doing a podcast and it's just a few of us there and you start text messaging, it's disconcerting, it's disrespectful to what's going on. Also, as the guy who's talking, I need material. I got to talk. I have to say something.
Right.
So it's like, what am I going to say? Like, what the fuck are you text messaging for? Because as Dan or Steve Fabricant, it's good radio too. Like even if I exaggerate it a little bit for the
Right.
sake of performance.
Well-
although I wasn't exaggerating, I was actually more upset about it than I indicated. Like I probably made a joke out of it when I was like, what the fuck is this guy text messaging? But anyway, point is that he understands that it's fodder.
Right.
And he's a professional. He's a fucking professional. So if from that, giving him a hard time about text messaging, he felt then he could escalate it to a public speculation about my finances. Don't forget, the top 1% are not well loved these days, Dan. It's like, I think he crossed the line. I'd say he was the first person to actually cross the line. I think what I did was within the realm of traditional give and take on a show for a guy who was text messaging. What would Howard Stern say if somebody was text messaging? He'd say, what the fuck are you text messaging? Like, he would use that. But to come back at Howard Stern about, listen, I heard you made $300 billion. Like, Howard Stern get mad.
Would it?
Yeah, that's what I say.
Okay, I think we've.
Nicole,
What's up?
what do you say about it? Be honest.
Are you Howard Stern in this situation?
Of course. He's Howard Stern in every
Or
situation.
in any analogy, I'm just saying that.
I'm not texting. I'm calling up my talking points.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just saying that I don't think I'm not aggressive, and I don't think
Oh, no, not at all.
I wasn't being aggressive towards Ray. I
Are you,
can be
are you
aggressive.
are you aggressive towards me when we discuss things like abortion?
Aggressive is not the word.
Oh, what's the word?
A low tolerance for stupidity. I'm sorry.
I'll tell you this. You're really walking.
I take that back.
You're walking a fine line.
So-
Go ahead.
Noam wanted Nicole's perspective.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
If Nicole's willing to give it.
Sure. I guess it was kind of weird that he brought it up, and it seemed like you were trying to just like squash it or hash it out, but he didn't want to talk about it anymore and just shut it down after his initial comment.
I actually have no recollection. I find that I have zero recollection of these podcasts after I do them. But go ahead.
I don't know if you want to talk about other things. I think we've said what needs to be said. First of all, is the Rittenhouse verdict come out yet? Come down?
All Dan is doing during this entire conversation is thinking, okay, what am I going to say when Ray brings this up to me? What am I going to say when Ray brings that up to me? He's totally petrified.
I'm
that
not
he might lose it.
petrified, but-
Dan,
but-
if you lose your Aruba gig, I'll step in, all right?
Okay, all right.
That's the only thing he cares about.
No, it's in any case.
Listen, I love Ray Ellin. I have no beef with him.
Okay, well, we should have him on and bring him some chocolates, even though I'm a little bit annoyed. But anyway, are we going to be having this conversation in a year about stupid? We might be.
Oh, your stupid thing, your show. Mm-hmm. Listen, Periel did a show, and
Ariel's doing.
Periel's doing a show, and it's animated now.
Anyway, the Rittenhouse verdict has not come down yet. It probably will by the time this airs tomorrow night. But as of now, there is no verdict in the Rittenhouse.
Well, what do you think about Rittenhouse, Dan?
I haven't been paying strict attention. Have you been watching the trial?
That's a great talking point.
It is, but I thought the verdict would have come down by now. We could just talk about the mayhem, or the not mayhem.
You're hoping for riots?
No, well, I think if he gets off, it's going to be tense. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be riots, but I think it's going to be very tense stuff.
Well, I mean, it seems to me, if you read about it, it's pretty hard to see how he gets convicted. They threw out the gun charge. I mean, I'm not sure there's enough evidence to sustain a civil verdict, 51%, but beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't defending himself, how could anybody go there? It doesn't, it defies...
Are you predicting then, and as again, when this airs, the verdict will probably be
Yeah, I guess
Are you predicting an acquittal on all charges?
I'm predicting, but not with a high degree of confidence, because I don't understand... I didn't watch it, and I don't know how juries operate, and there could be some intimidation of the jury, although I don't think, like I felt with the Derek Chauvin thing, the jury was clearly scared, would have been scared. It had to be on their radar, but here, I have no idea. But yeah, if things are based on the evidence, I don't see how they could convict him of a murder.
Well, my take at the time was, I remember thinking, it's a bad idea to let people walk around with these guns in that situation, but it was legal to do, I think, or maybe he was underage. But
no, they threw out the charge that he was underage because apparently the gun measured longer than the law restricted guns below a certain measurement. So the gun was actually legal. But even if it had been illegal, it would have been a misdemeanor. If he had been 18, it would have been perfectly legal to carry even
why
a shorter
is
gun.
this kid walking around with this gun? I don't understand.
It
Like,
doesn't
on
matter.
what planet?
It's irrelevant. Listen, the law. This is what people don't want to accept. The law tells us what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. Period. And if the law allows you to do it, you can complain all you want about him doing it, but you can't bring that into a criminal trial. He's allowed to carry a gun. And by the way, when the Times analyzed the video, this is going back a year already. I remember this. In that video of just following him, they heard 16 other gunshots that were not his, which is to say that a reasonable person going around that night would have wanted to carry a gun if they could do so legally, because it was dangerous as hell. It was a riot. People were shooting guns.
Well, the reasonable person probably would have stayed home, but that's not relevant legally.
Well, I mean, would a reasonable person stay home? Yes, a reasonable person would stay home. Am I ready to say that a reasonable person would not endeavor to protect innocent property or innocent lives, wouldn't want to be out there to try to help? He was an EMT. He had his medical thing. The Times followed him giving medical aid prior to this. Is that an unreasonable person? I mean, I wouldn't want my kids to do it.
But he doesn't even have to be a reasonable person if it's legal for him to carry the gun.
Right, but I'm saying it's the word reasonable person there can be taken in a few different ways. Like, you could actually say, in a certain sense, that anybody who's brave, anybody who risks their safety to help is unreasonable. I think that's what we're verging on here. He's also 17, so he's probably got immature ideas. Maybe he's a avid Fox News watcher or right-wing news watcher, and he's worked up about this stuff. But in the end, based on what we know, he was out there with giving medical aid, and other people, and we know that the people who he shot, one of them was out there, yelling the N-word and turning stuff up and lighting stuff on fire. Another person hit him with a skateboard, and the other person grabbed his gun. I think I'm getting it all right.
I don't know. All I know.
So where's the murder?
Well, didn't he kill two people?
3 people? Yeah, he shot.
He killed 3 people. His mother drove him across state lines with an assault rifle.
This is a dead giveaway. What is since when? You know that his mother drove him from Newark to Manhattan. Like, whoever has
said... Okay, who cares? Even in the same state, fine, fair enough. Fair enough.
But hold on. It is fair enough, but I'm saying this is such a giveaway on the bias here, because why are people harping on this crossing state lines thing as
Well,
if
I
this is
think
some sort of moral weight to crossing a
yeah,
state
all right,
line in the United States of
don't
America.
harp on that. Fine, take that out. Why? I mean, imagine a mother driving this kid. I mean, with a fucking gun. Like, I don't understand. It's psychotic.
Well, you know what? You know why he went to Kenosha? Because the whole rest of his family lived there. This
All
is
right.
another thing they didn't report. It came out.
Listen,
His
the whole thing.
His
the
family
whole
lives in
thing is-
Kenosha. His father and his sister. So he was.
Right.
So they had him interviewed before the thing on the Daily Call or something, and he said, "I'm here to protect my neighborhood." And they said, "Is it your neighborhood?" He's like, "Yeah, my family lives here."
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna pause you for a second. I think that this whole thing is nuts, but I'm gonna pause you for a second. I have two things to say. Number one, all you do is complain that all we do is talk about political stuff. All we were doing was talking about comedy. You changed the topic to this.
No,
Number one. Number two, Ray Ellin just texted me and said that Noam asked me if I'd go on Zoom. I will if you want.
Oh, send him a link, Nicole.
We're here with the Aruba Ray Ellin. He was with us on the last episode. He has come back to defend his honor and his good name against Noam's declarations. We discussed at the top of the show. We summarized last week's discussion about the This Week at the Comedy Cellar TV show that aired on Comedy Central about, I guess it was 2 years ago.
You summarized the tail end, Dan, after I'd left?
At the end, Noam said that Ray had issues with the disparity in terms of Noam making a lot of money and Ray making less money, and Noam had said that he felt Ray might have been resentful.
First of all, I'm not sure where or why you would think that, but I'm not resentful of that show for a second. I think it was great for so many people involved, and I'm puzzled. I have absolutely no resentment at all. I'm very content with what I earned and whatever you made. I don't care. It was that, whatever I said, it was a joke in response to Noam saying whatever he said when I was texting during the show. I took out my phone to text Liz, the GM, that I was going to be maybe late for her show, at the VU that I was hosting around the corner, the Village Underground, and also to look up the Cecily Strong video that Dan had referenced. That's why it was on my phone. Because everybody at some point picks up their cell phones, as Noam just did.
That was a joke, Ray.
Ah, I get you.
Well, in any case, and then there's also the issue of Ray Ellen's role, which we have discussed in the Comedy Central show. I believe Ray Ellen's role was key. That is to say, if it weren't for Ray Ellen, I don't think that show would have made it to the air. Noam doesn't feel that way, I don't believe.
To be honest, I don't have that much of a recollection of it, but I'll tell you this. You know what?
Well,
I'm in a bind here because
well, let's just say this.
just tell me what to say.
No. The point is that one of the things that Ray said was that he was sick of coming on and like feeling like he had to like somehow defend himself. You had said, and if you go back and you listen to the beginning of this episode, that you were really just, trolling him and fucking around because you were annoyed about something that he brought up, but wasn't really related to his role or anything like that. And Ray was also saying that he would like to come on and feel like a regular, normal guest.
He was invited on last week as a regular guest, but then he kind of brought in the Comedy Central show, I think. But
Okay,
Ray,
can I speak freely?
Yes, you can speak.
Ray, can I speak freely?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is what I think. That seems. I have an angel and a devil on my shoulder right now. I got to admit. I know you can't see them, but they're talking at me, and it's a tough one. But I'm gonna
Go with the angel.
Okay, Dan, to you.
Well, Ray, let me ask you this question. You introduced Noam to Michael Hirschhorn, who ended up producing the show.
Well, that's not exactly correct, Dan. And by the way, I'm amazed that after over 2 years, never mind more than that. I mean, we started that thing we started the whole thing. I didn't look at emails, but I think 2015 was when the initial conversation was. And then the thing got on the air in 2018. Like, I don't even understand what we're talking about. It's not just make an introduction. There was 2 different production companies I proposed the show to, both of which I'd done other work with. And I developed a relationship with, and they trusted me and my taste. And they both were interested in it. And we went with...
And other companies that you did introduce me to were interested in it.
Right, but you didn't go with them. I don't know why, but
Go
that's...
with them because I went with those guys because you knew them. It wasn't like...
Right, so I knew them, and I knew they did.
There was only one guy
Yeah,
who
I
turned
trust.
it down, and that was Robert Kelly's Robert Scorpio. Scorpio, is that his name? I don't know what he was thinking, but
anyway, none of this.
okay,
all of this is,
I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to lay it out there. Now, Ray, Dan has been to therapy. Do you go to therapy, Periel?
I have been.
Dan, Ray, do you see a therapist?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I don't see a therapist, but this is what
Wow.
I believe that what I say at some point might have been echoed in some therapy session that you might have had at some point. I think you are a serial resenter of people and your incidents with them. As I known you.
Let me interrupt you right there because let me interrupt you right there because
no,
that
I'm not
statement.
gonna let you interrupt me right there because I let you speak
That
for a long
statement.
time.
No, because you're just attacking me. It's insanity.
Let me finish my presentation. I promise I'll speak. We were in Aruba one night. It was when we were doing that shitty Comedy Cellar website. I was in the middle of doing the Comedy Cellar website, and I happened to have a list. I was with Ray and Robert Kelly. You want me to stop? And I had a list of all the comedians. I had the master database of the comedians, and we went through the list of. We were like going through the list of comedians one by one, just like talking about them. And like 4 out of 5, Ray had a story with a beef about them. Ray's like
this is absolutely.
And the beefs I'm sure were legitimate, but I think that little things stay with you. They claw at you, and you have trouble letting things go, and they might even grow like moles, psychological moles. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what I think. Now, tell me honestly, Ray. Look me in the eye. Look me in the eye, Ray, and tell me: is this reminiscent of any conversation you've ever had about? What else do you talk about in therapy? This is what you should be talking about.
I don't know how to break this to you, but not only do I not remember what you're talking about in Aruba, because that was probably 7 years ago.
Remember.
7 years ago. But if you heard the way comics talk to each other about each other, sometimes in jest, sometimes in not, I actually think I am more gracious to my colleagues than any other comedian. I'm the first to text them and congratulate them after they have a great, after they do a late night set or they get a deal. Like I actually believe the pie is large enough for everybody. So I don't remember the conversation, Noam. And by the way, it could have been completely joking. And so I don't remember what the hell you're even referring to. As far as a resenter, I mean, you're bringing up this TV show from years ago. That it almost seems like you have trouble sharing. You seem to think that like you have trouble sharing credit with other people.
Who brought it up?
When? Last week?
Yeah.
It was a joke because you're giving me shit about texting, and you said you'll never be a guest on this show again.
Right.
And my response was, be on the show again. And I said, this is the first time in 2 years I've been on the show. You'd think you'd have a guy who made you a few $100,000 on the show. It was a joke, Noam. You know, the problem with this show is, you know why this show should be one of the top 5 podcasts. Here's why it's not. Because A, it's not a straight comedy show. It's called the Comedy Cellar Show, but it's not straight comedy. And Noam, you don't need the show financially. It's wonderful how successful you are. The show's not important to your well-being. I feel bad for Dan. You should have 2 different podcasts. You should handle a political roundtable show, and Dan should have this show, because this show could help Dan's career exponentially. He could be touring in theaters if you did the show as a comedy show, which is what the brand dictates. You would be a great host of something like the McLaughlin Group. That would be phenomenal for you. And I've told you that before. You'd be the best at that.
Okay, stop. So for a couple of things. First of all, which one of these shows will be top 5? Dan's show or my political show?
Dan's Comedy Cellar show would be top 5. I think your show would be top 10 in the political world.
Dan's not under exclusive contract. He can have his own podcast. If Dan's capable of doing a top 5 show, what does he need me for?
I think the Comedy Cellar brand carries a lot of weight. And by the way, that's part of the reason why we sold the TV show. Is because the Comedy Cellar name. That TV show could have worked in any club.
Wait one second, because the two of you are like an old fucking married couple. This is what happened. He got annoyed because of the money thing, okay? He didn't think that was appropriate to bring up in public, and you got upset because of the other things that he said.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury at home, I submit the following. That when he was upset about me stopping, giving him shit about the text messaging.
No, after that I'm talking about.
But I'm saying when he was upset, Nicole, I'm interested in your opinion. When he was upset about it, the first thing that came to his mind in terms of his comeback is an insight into his psychology. It is the first thing that came to his mind. The first thing that came to his mind was how much fucking money I made because he introduced me to that show. There are 10 years of experiences he could have gone to. He could have talked about the time he tried to take my nanny by having sex with her. He could have.
Wait a second. Whoa.
The time he tried to.
You set me up with your nanny.
He could have talked about all the creepy things he did. Instead.
What creepy? You set me up with your nanny. You're spinning the truth.
The first thing he talked about was how much money I made.
No, it was an ad lib.
Tell me that that's not an insight into a real.
Wait a second. And now let me state my defense to that. See, again, I'm fucking defending myself. Every time I come on here, it's now I'm pulling some horse shit. Listen to me. It was an ad lib that you laughed at hysterically. It was an ad lib on a show. I am the best host you have at the Comedy Cellar. Arguably maybe the best, whatever. Every comic wants me to host their show, and I do it out on the road, whatever. And it was an ad lib during a show. I improvise all the time, and you laughed hysterically. And I think the other two, Periel and I don't know if Dan did, they laughed as well. No, I don't give a shit how much money you made. I'm content with how much I made. But you know what troubles me is from day one of the show, you always try to discredit it. And that's what you should go to therapy for. What is it about yourself that doesn't want you to have other people to have any credit? I mean, it's kind of laughable. It's bizarre. Puzzling.
Well, can I bring up something that Noam had said we had talked briefly about before you came on, Ray, is that you introduced Noam to this guy from Ish, and I had mentioned that it was about 2 years between that introduction and the show getting on the air, and that I said that you did a lot to keep the ball in the air. Is that correct?
Correct.
So
1,000%
what
correct.
did you do to keep things going during that time?
There was a lot of conversations I had with the production. And by the way, it's not just an introduction. Sounds like I just said, hi guys, why don't you go chat? All the best. That's an introduction. I had a relationship with a company, and I thought this was a good fit, and I love the idea of the show. And as time kept going on, people lose interest. Noam gets distractions with whatever he has. He's running another business. Those guys have other projects. And you can look at there's probably 150 emails to keep everything moving, forward motion, to keep the conversation alive, to keep the project alive. And then I produced the sizzle reel, which was an integral part of selling the show. It's like, we sit in an office from 2 p.m. to 6 a.m. We sit in the cellar when we're taping for 6, 7, 8 hours. It's like endless amount of time. It's kind of hilarious that years later, I mean, the second we got into production, all of this was apparent. I don't know why on earth I'm even having this conversation. I'm really doing this as a favor to Periel because I didn't really want to.
As a favor to me. I don't
cancel last minute.
No. Don't do it as a favor to me.
This is silly because you know why? Because when
we
you
don't
have
even need to be talking about this. We can move on.
But when you have to defend yourself from your you do though, because if someone's saying basically you don't deserve this or that, or you didn't do this or do that, you're suddenly defending yourself. I have 5 other shows in production and a club in Aruba. I don't think about this. It's because it came up. But I think things got a little bit twisted and heated on the air, and you weren't here for the beginning part of the show. And Noam said that he loves you, and that he, I just think
it's a familial sort of love that is encompasses frustration, at times exasperation, much like you might have with a family member, but the love is there. Noam, do you have anything further to say? I think everybody said their piece, and we can let the listeners decide for themselves if Ray Allen's role in getting the show on the air was substantial or insubstantial. I believe it was substantial.
I don't think
And
that's
no,
the
by
question.
the way, nobody doubts, Ray, that once the show got on the air, you worked very hard. That's not in dispute.
But I don't even think that's part. I don't think any of that's in dispute.
Well, of course it's in dispute. That was the whole subject of the dispute.
no, they got.
The whole subject of the dispute was what was Ray Allen's role in getting the show on the air. Once the show was on the air, Ray, I can tell you that Noam acknowledges that you worked very hard. And that you earned whatever money they paid you. I don't know what it was.
I don't think that's what this whole thing
Of course
was
it was
about.
the whole thing was about. In any case, Noam, you're on your phone. I don't know if
I'm
you have...
trying to find the emails for things. So I don't remember Ray producing the sizzle reel, but I remember Michael producing the sizzle reel.
No, Michael actually said, Ray, you produced the sizzle reel.
What does produce sizzle reel mean?
I can't give you an explanation. I can't explain to you what it means to produce something, because if you don't know that, then you should take zero credit for this TV show.
That's not an answer.
What does it mean? It means
If I tell my daughter what you did,
okay, you would say to her, he got the right comics to agree to participate in the shoot and actually participate in the shoot. He worked with Ish on how to shoot the show, on how the look of the show.
No, I don't remember.
All the elements that go into it, that's what, and there's different types, but there's also producers that write a check.
I remember asking Andrew Schultz to do it. I asked Andrew Schultz.
That's one
I
guy.
think a lot of
He had
Ray's
12 guys in the
contribution
show.
was just because Noam, you tend
He was
to,
the main guy we used.
you tend to sometimes you'll start a project and then you have so much going on that you don't pay attention. So there was 2 years in between the initial introduction and the show getting on the air.
On the air, yeah. It was a year from the time
And
we
it had to keep Comedy Central interested and involved.
No, I think it was about a year from the time we pitched it to the time they came back. We had a bunch of pitch meetings that they came
Because
back.
they didn't immediately come back with an offer, right? So it took.
Yeah, they did. They did pretty quickly. Right after the thing, then it took a long time to get
We
it on the
pitched
air.
it to about
They
eight
postponed it.
different networks.
They kicked it back a season, I think, from the time that they first said they were going to do it. Yeah, we got an answer pretty quickly from Comedy Central, but then we were also waiting for like, I forget who was the other network that we thought maybe we'd do it? TBS, I think it was.
We talked to the three finalists were like TBS, Comedy Central, and HBO.
When we say three finalists, we mean they were our finalists. We only had one offer.
Okay, but the show.
The three that expressed some interest, I should
The
say. by
show
finalists.
was amazing. Like everybody seemed to have like a very good experience. So what are you guys actually fucking arguing about?
Ray is resentful.
Well,
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I don't like what was said after I left the studio. I mean, that's
Okay.
that's chumpish.
So that's really what it was.
Well, no,
You're
no,
upset at something that he said to you during the show, and he was upset at what you said after.
I'm sorry for that. I was just trying to mess with you.
Well, you were starting to have a psychological analysis with Paul Bloom. It sounded like.
I do think. I mean, I'm to be very honest. I do think that you have resentments towards not me. Resentments towards.
I only resent you when you say bullshit about me.
Yeah, I'm just being very honest now. It doesn't make me right.
I resent no one else's success. How many times have I talked to you on just regular private calls where I go, it is unbelievable what X, Y, and Z are doing. They are killing it with their podcasts.
Ray is always very supportive.
theaters.
He goes to the Tonight Show tapings with people. I know he's been very supportive of Mike Vecchione and Ricky
Lee.
Velez and so forth.
Chris Stefano, Jared Fried, Schultz. I mean, all these guys. It's amazing what these guys are doing. It's phenomenal.
I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm going to grant you that. I think that is true. But there are other. Both things can be true at the same time. You've told me other stories in the past of ways that you were involved in the dominoes that fell in terms of somebody's career, and you were resentful that they didn't credit you enough for the fact that you helped them in this way or that way.
I gotta be honest with you. I truly don't know who you're referring to. I really don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know what you're talking about or who you're referring to. You're talking about a conversation we had sitting in Aruba.
No, other conversations. We've had certain comedians who Whatever. That's what I think. But that.
You want to text me the name of the comedian? I can read it and I can
actually
see
don't
if I can
remember.
remember the story.
Part
So
of
you're
it-
telling me you don't even remember, and you're making it sound like I'm bad mouthing all of my colleagues, and you don't even remember who the fuck we're talking about.
No, not
That's
bad
not cool, man.
Not bad mouthing. You were just feeling that. I just think that
You're getting me confused with Dan.
That could be.
I think that's what's happening here. You're going to be confused with Daniel Matterman. Daniel Elliott Matterman.
I see how he does that.
Well,
All right. Anyway, I appreciate your help in the TV show, Ray, and you're right. It was, and I think this also bugged him. I think he didn't feel that I was sufficiently interested in the show in some way, that I didn't take as sufficient interest in it in some way, because it's true. Like early on in the show, it got separated from what I wanted the show to be. And I was frustrated with the product. So I just kind of detached myself from it, because I realized that they were going to do what they wanted to do, and I wasn't going to be able to have much of an impact on it. I just want to crack my head open in frustration. So I just kind of separated from the whole thing. I started sending Liz, and I think that, but I was still getting the money.
Well, I remember that season 1 was definitely, I think you found that far more frustrating than subsequent seasons.
Yeah.
And because, for that reason, I mean, look, you also, again, like you say, you have other stuff going on. I mean, it's.
No, and I'm not even saying their vision of the show was better or worse than mine. My vision of the show could have crashed and burned, but I'm just saying, like, I wasn't getting any satisfaction out of it. I wasn't getting any artistic satisfaction. Like initially, I thought I was going to be involved in the editing, and I thought I was really going to be. I thought by creating a show and owning the club and owning the show and everything, I was going to have some say in it. And I realized the hard way that actually I had zero say in it. So I was like, all right, I get it. I'm not the one putting up all the money here. They're putting up the money. They get to decide. And I was like grown up about it. I was like, okay, go ahead, do the show.
well, my experience with the show, as long as we're talking about our experiences with the show, was wholly negative, except for the paycheck, which I very much appreciated, and I was able to get health care for a couple of years out of SAG. But I was very, very anxious every time I did the show, because I get anxious when I do new material, and they're filming me, and they never used my jokes. The first season they used my jokes because no one went to bat for me and said, this joke killed. Why aren't you using this joke? And so they said, okay, fine, we'll put it in. And then when Noam stopped going to bat for me, I didn't get any jokes.
Because Ray was stabbing you in the back.
Yeah, right. I actually,
I didn't get
there was
any
a
jokes
joke
on in the second season. They had their favorites and they had their criteria for selecting jokes, not all of which had to do with the jokes that killed the hardest. But in any case, Comedy Central doesn't show me any love.
Well, there was a joke, Dan, that you did. I don't remember what it was. Arguably one of the best jokes in the entire series of all 3 seasons. It had to do with, it was like a job about a joke about masturbation, whatever. And I remember I was sitting in the edit room. It was about 1 in the morning.
Get on, I think that
did get on. Yes. So they wanted to cut the joke. And I said, this is an unbelievable joke. And the guy goes, I don't know. I go, hold on a second. And I yelled to a guy down the hall who's working on a different show in the editing bay. And I had him come in, and he comes in, he goes, oh my God, that's hysterical. And the guy goes, all right, we'll keep the guy who I was debating with, he goes, all right, I'll keep the first half of the joke. I go, what? And then the guy who I pulled in goes, the second half of the joke's even funnier than the first. So I had to call in strangers.
When I talk about masturbating in front of women, and I said the only time I masturbate in front of women is when they start blowing me, and I'm like, give me that. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Give me that.
It's an amazing joke. So, you start to lose your mind. You're sitting there at 1, 2 in the morning, and you're having arguments with people over stuff that in this case, I know is unbelievably funny. And you have to bring in people from down the hall who don't even work on the show to validate your argument. Your head's going to explode. It was a lot. It was a great experience. And I think if COVID didn't happen, we probably would have had a 4th season. But everything happens for a reason. If I'm working on other stuff now, and the club is successful, and blah blah blah. But it's a lot of fucking work and long hours and a great experience and nice money. And so, it was all a great experience.
On another matter, Ray, have the cops made any progress finding out who came into your house and spray painted the walls? Or
we have several suspects, and hopefully they will apprehend somebody soon.
You do that artwork?
Yeah, me and yes, this buddy during the pandemic, we're losing our minds, and so we have a friend named James Goldcrown. James Goldcrown is a very successful.
Before he tells them, I'm telling people because not everybody watches on YouTube. So Ray's sitting in. If you looked at his apartment, he's got like spray painted hearts and red, blue, and green. It literally looks like a subway station art. Go ahead.
Well, if you Google Love Wall James Goldcrown, you will see the original Love Wall. It's hundreds and hundreds of hearts, spray painted on a wall in downtown New York City. And this guy, James Goldcrown, but I've known him about maybe 10, 12 years. He has turned this into a unbelievably like a Keith Haring-esque franchise. And he does these hearts all over the world for companies. He has a deal now with Skechers and with Sephora, and it's amazing. That's a guy I am so happy for because he was selling his art out of an ice cream truck at one point.
And what did you do to facilitate his success?
Just nothing. I bought one piece of art. So he goes, so we're talking once, and I said, I go, man, those hearts are amazing. And my other friend goes, yeah, we can do them on your wall if you want. Not James, but our other buddy. So during the pandemic, I got some spray paint.
That on your wall, right?
What's that?
My daughter could have that on your wall.
So we start spray painting it, and then I didn't realize how toxic the smell is. And I sleep in this room. So it was a foolish move on my part. But James got a big kick out of it because he thought I was an imbecile for even attempting to do it. And I suggest everybody look up James Goldcrown and buy some of his work.
Okay, listen, his work may be good, but let's just be honest. There is nothing about that. I mean, literally, if my wife came home and found that on my wall, she would have assumed the kids did it and they'd be punished. Like if I said, no, honey, I just paid $10,000 for that. What are you doing? Like
you know what? It was a very, very long pandemic. I was running out of things to do. And if your nanny that you set me up with and I dated for 6 months, if she saw this wall, she probably would have loved it.
I want to hear that story.
Hold on. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad. Actually, to be clear, it's cute. It's nice. I'm just saying that there's, you can see it. There's just nothing about it, which like Ava, my stepmother Ava, she does beautiful drawings and paintings. I mean, they're highly skilled.
She's a brilliant artist.
Yeah, this is
not
just,
it's graffiti.
He's saying anybody could have done it.
No, I mean,
but like really anybody could have done it.
No.
But I never made the claim that it was good. It's just on my wall.
It's cute. You don't think anybody could have done that?
I mean, it's like saying anybody could do like Jackson Pollock. Like, I mean, this guy's made a career out of making.
Well, but
that's
not the guy. That's not the guy.
That's me doing a knockoff of it.
It's a knockoff of it.
Yeah, the guy's actual work.
Yeah,
the guy's actual work is amazing.
Okay,
James
I mean, there's two elements to art. There's the skill in creating the art, and then there's the vision. So sometimes an art can look simplistic, and maybe it is in terms of anybody could recreate it, but could somebody think of it?
Agreed.
So
okay, I'm looking at Jackson Pollock here. No. This is not like Jackson Pollock.
No.
Look at James Goldcrown. James Goldcrown.
A lot of people.
Like Mark Rothko looks like something anybody could do. I mean, Mark Rothko, actually, I don't really get.
No.
I don't get why that's good.
Rothko's amazing. I want to hear about the nanny. What?
No, that's a
No.
whole.
Well,
You were not authorized to dictate topics. I'm sorry, we've been through this.
I didn't
Wait a second,
dictate it.
Dan.
They brought it up.
Dan, I don't mind. It's fine with
we
me.
Brought our nanny. We brought our nanny to Aruba.
Ray had a relationship with Noam's nanny. There's not
And
much.
Dan said, Noam said to me, I think you and my nanny would get along really well, blah, 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 whatever. They came to Aruba. We got together. We dated for like 6 months. In fact, at one point, Noam was saying to me, there's a house for sale right over there, like, within eyesight of Noam's house. And I think Noam had in his head that I was going to like move in with a nanny in this other house and she could like be with the kids till they were like, 10 years old or whatever. And like me and this nanny were going to live happily ever after and be Noam's neighbors and so on and so forth. Am I incorrect with that, Noam?
Slightly.
Anyway, we broke up and she kind of disappeared. She just vanished. Like she disappeared from everyone's lives.
Yeah.
Poof.
All right. I think we're out of time here.
Well, if you want to briefly discuss that woman that urinated on a fan on stage, we could do so. If not, we can end.
Did you guys talk about the woman that walked on stage during that guy's set?
No,
there's a woman who walked on stage. She looked a little intoxicated. A white woman who walked on stage during, I believe his name was Affian Crockett's set. You guys didn't see that? Maybe you're going to talk about that next episode. It's fascinating. A lot of people can't believe she did it. What a Karen, blah, blah, blah.
Comedian that was...
A woman walked on stage during a comedian's set in the middle of, I don't know, Ohio or somewhere like that. To me, she's just some drunk dum-dum. I've seen people walk on stage and break a chair over a comedian's head. I've seen people throw a drink in comedians' faces. I mean,
what'd she do? What's the point of the story?
Well, it was like it's all on Twitter. Everyone's talking about it. Look at this entitled, privileged person, and look at she's a Karen and so on and so forth. I just thought she was a drunk.
Well, we'll
person.
have to investigate that.
Yeah, take a look.
An electric fan.
Somebody peed. This woman, you heard, Nicole. You must be. You're abreast of the new music.
That's what I thought he meant.
No, I meant.
How does a woman pee on a fan?
A woman peed on a person that was at the show. This was.
How does a woman pee? They can't. They pee sitting down.
She pulled her pants all the way down to her knees. This is Sophia. Oddly named Eurista. Sounds odd. I mean, that's a pretty odd name for.
And somebody lied down under her.
She said it's on video. You can watch the video. She said, "I gotta pee and I can't make it to the bathroom. We might as well." What did it say? I got to pee and I can't make it to the bathroom, so we might as well make a show out of it. A fan volunteered to get on stage, lie down on the stage, and this woman, Sophia Eurista, who was on The Voice, by the way, like our dear friend Amanda Brown.
And Sasha Allen.
She
and
dropped...
Amanda's sister is on now. Go ahead.
Whose sister?
Amanda, Samara.
She dropped trout all the way to her knees and urinated, and it was a veritable water... I mean, this was like Niagara Falls. It was a lot of pee. It was a monstrous amount of pee. And when
what club was it?
It's not like an elegant stream like a man. You know how it is. So it was...
Where was this, Dan?
You can see it on video. It was unbelievable. And then she tweeted that she went too far.
About 4 hours ago, my mother brought this up. We were talking. She goes, "Did you hear about this? She took down her pants and urinated. This is an outrage." 4 hours ago, my mother mentioned this to me.
Well, if Brown's mother's heard about it, obviously it's big news. It's going beyond just the circle of fans. Brass Against is the name of the band. Nicole, do you know anything about this band, Brass Against?
No, I saw a picture of this, but I don't know anything about it.
Did you see the video?
No.
I gotta tell you, I'm not qualified to do this podcast anymore because I've been so into music lately. I don't watch the news. I barely do anything.
This is a music
political podcast. Do a political podcast.
I'm not that interested in politics anymore. And
this is a music story.
We had a woman in the altar tonight. She says, "Oh my God, I listen to your podcast all the time, and I came down to see your." I'm not sure. She said she came down to see, or she was at the cellar and she came up. Anyway, she's like, "I hear you talking about your band," and she was like, "Oh my God, you guys are so great." And that meant more to me than anything else.
Hand the reins of this show to Dan and Perino.
Am I for it or against it?
I don't know.
I mean, it's an outrageous story. But if the fan was happy, and I'm sure they probably violated the public health codes. I mean, the club as a club,
and it's indecent exposure. I think she might be brought up on charges for indecent exposure.
Really?
I think so.
Does that even exist anymore? Indecent exposure?
I think so. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that
it is somewhat reminiscent of my scheme that I came up with years ago, half jokingly, maybe half seriously, about taking a dump on Letterman's stage in order to get attention. Do you recall that? No.
Yes, I recall that very well.
Dan, I do remember you
understood the. I just think going to the bathroom is something you should just do yourself. I didn't want to watch my wife pee. It's just
people love urine.
Keep it to yourself.
Oh my God!
People enjoy urine. It's one of the
Gandhi drank urine, right?
I don't know if he drank it. I don't know what he did, but it's a huge fetish.
People are into golden showers.
Golden showers, yeah.
I don't get that.
Has anybody on this podcast ever done that?
What's that?
He can't hear. I mean, he's trying to talk.
Has anyone on this podcast ever participated in such a thing?
No, but I will cop to asking young ladies for tinkle videos.
Oh my!
You have?
God.
Yeah,
Damn.
like a woman that I was involved with, where she's sending me naughty things. I was like, here's something you might want to send me if it's not too much of an effort.
Now, what do you want? You want to see the pee coming out, or you just want the sound effect of her sitting on the toilet? What do you want?
I think both. Yeah, I think both.
This is a topic for Dan's therapist.
No, because this is perfectly within the realm of normal sexuality. It's a very common fetish. And I don't know that I'd want to be peed on, but better to be peed on than to be peed off.
Now,
Or is it the other way around?
Does any woman have a fetish about watching a man pee?
I think people.
I had a girl once reference holding it while I pee, but we never did it.
People do like to be urinated on. That is a thing.
Or just to watch it. I mean, it's a very if you plug it into Google, you'll find it's
on a hot summer's day and you got to cool off. You got to do what you got to do.
It's not that cool, but but Noam doesn't get it. Noam.
Can you put piss in like a humidifier? You know how you fill a humidifier with water and it aerosolizes
Well, if it's
it?
not coming out of a vagina, what's the point?
I think I smell a new viral video.
It doesn't come out of a vagina exactly, does
Well,
it?
whatever it comes out of. I mean, yeah, it's not the same hole. You're correct. You're correct.
It's not the same hole.
Not the same hole.
And I didn't pick that topic. I resent that. He brought it up. You said you're not allowed to pick topics. I didn't bring up that topic.
You were, in other words, you tried to steer it. He brought it up, but then you tried to make it the main focus of the.
Now, poop is a fetish too.
I understand.
And you think that's normal also?
That's disgusting. People are out of their minds.
No. I actually wrote about this extensively in my first book. I had a very good friend.
The one you want to let my children read. Go ahead.
The one that I will not let your children
okay,
read.
go ahead.
He's a very accomplished musician, this guy, and he's gay, and he used to get hired by wealthy older men, and one of them asked him to defecate in his mouth.
Ugh.
And he used to pay him hundreds of dollars. Now here's the
Hundreds
of dollars to come over and shit in somebody's mouth.
Would you do that for hundreds of dollars?
No, I wouldn't.
That sounds like thousands of dollars.
Thousands of 10
Now,
grand.
this was like 20 years ago, but here's the twist.
Oh, inflation.
Here's the twist. The guy was a vegetarian, and so he always told my friend not to eat meat first. I swear to God, that's a true story.
McAfee, there's a documentary about, was his name John McAfee, I think? I believe when he was...
The
When he was off,
software guy?
yeah, and he was off living, I think, in Belize. And there's like 3 women in the documentary. Always like he liked to lay in a hammock, and he would lay underneath a hammock. They would get in the hammock, and he would have the women poop on him.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
No, would you do that? Would you ever let somebody poop on you?
Why are you asking a ridiculous question? You know he
I don't know. Maybe in your youth, in your wild days.
What's the price?
What's going through my head now is like in my wild days. So that's like a wild thing. Is just the science of it all. Like
corpophilia, I think it's called.
yeah, it's
Coprophilia.
Like, it exists in nature.
Yeah.
You're born with it, right? Probably you can't help it, but we don't respect it. We pick and choose what it is that somebody has a compulsion to do. Like I'm not getting into it. Like certain people have other compulsions. Like, how dare you judge somebody? Like,
Right.
Somebody wants to poop. Like, what is the matter with you? What are you sick? like it's the last like readout. It's the last kind of thing that we'll all agree on is like this person needs help. Like,
well, no.
Look, everything else got to come out of the is it DSM? Is it called? Every other thing has got to come out of the DSM. But wanted to get pooped on, the DSM and then is going to be a pamphlet with one thing in there.
No,
like,
I think most people. I think most people are in accord that anything between 2 consenting adults is okay. That's I believe most people's position. They might find it odd or weird.
I want to get therapy. I want to get pooped on. Well, you don't need therapy for that. You should be proud of that. You should.
No, pooping is gross. Come on, it's like.
Well, we shouldn't be. Say proud of it, but I don't think people would say that it's
he's so brave. He came out publicly and told people he wants to get pooped on. He's so brave. I'm just saying. Well, I guess what I'm really saying is now that made me think about it is who are you to segregate out being pooped on? The point is that we're at the point now where we're supposed to anything that people feel the urge to do, we presume is. Like that's the way it is, and we should respect it, and we shouldn't call it gross.
I'm not separating it out. I did call it gross. I will. You're right about that. Yeah. But I don't morally condemn anybody that's into it.
I don't either.
I'm on the fence.
I say,
but where it does
live free and poop.
Hold on. Where it does get dicey is pedophiles.
Well, but you're not dealing with consenting adults.
That's not
right,
what's dicey about that.
I agree with you. The urge is the urge. You have to fight it with everything you have and not give into it. But I cannot condemn the urge.
Yeah, I mean, people who feel that urge. They can't help it.
But they can help acting on it.
Maybe they can't. But we have. I guess what I'm saying is that we have. Of course, we have.
Well,
to,
that's
we have
why
to.
they should be put onto a fucking desert island and be castrated.
We have to protect ourselves from them, no doubt. Just like we'd have to protect ourselves from.
I mean, at
anybody
a
that hurts.
certain point, it's like, who gives a shit what the reason is?
But we judge them with a moral. I don't know, haughtiness, I guess, is
Haughtiness. I mean,
that is probably not fair in some way, in a sense that we judge them in a sense that, like, you know, how dare they feel this way? You're sick if you feel this way.
you
and
are
they-
sick if you feel that way. I don't know that that's haughty. I mean, wanting to
Well, this is what
have
I'm-
sex with prepubescent children is a fucking mental disease.
Well,
And you
I
need
think
to be
you-
segregated out of society.
You've made my point better than anybody else. Because my point is that we've come to defining mental disease in terms of the things that we don't approve of.
No,
But I don't think
no.
that the definition of disease, which means an abnormality in some way, really lines up with that. Like if
No,
you
that's
want,
not what I'm
if
saying.
you want to cut off your penis, there's, you know, like that is a serious, that's an urge.
No, 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 no.
That's an
no.
urge.
Stop.
I'm just saying, like, the urge for mutilation.
No. First of all, the language that you're using is A, inflammatory, and B, it's not accurate. And also,
Why is it?
doing something to
You
your
said mental disease.
I'm talking about if doing something to an innocent child is different than A, doing something to yourself or consenting adults.
So you think it's a disease to want to do something to a child?
Yes.
But-
Take advantage of a prepubescent child is you need to be segregated out of fucking society.
Of course you do. But then define disease to me.
I mean, I guess in the same way that like serial killers have a mental disease, you can't control yourself and you're going to harm somebody innocent.
What about harm yourself?
I would say that like what? Like cutting yourself? Like people who
Cutting
harm
yourself, cutting off your genitals.
But see, when you say cutting off your genitals, though, that's quite inflammatory because it's a loaded language.
Right. I had this conversation with somebody today about exactly this point. And I think that the best definition of wokeness is that it's a way to take conversations off the table. In other words, this is nine out of 10 people I'm having this conversation, and really I'm grappling with it. I'm trying to understand it. I'm really trying to put these concepts in an actual rigorous framework. But when you say it's inflammatory language, I mean, first of all, you make me look bad. I don't know. I have no answer to that. How can I? I mean,
I'm
it's
not
like
trying to make you look bad.
what it's a way of is cordoning off a conversation.
No, that's not what.
Well, then how can I talk about what it is I want to talk about without you? Can I get a better answer to?
Well, because it's
can you answer the substance of what I'm saying? Tell me. Listen, I will phrase it in whatever language you can give me that's not inflammatory.
Okay, let me try.
If you agree that we can actually talk about it.
Yeah, of course we can talk about it.
So how do I say it?
But wait a second. Let me just explain what I'm saying because I'm not trying to attack you. So
I don't think you are. I'm saying
I'm not trying
saying
to
wokeness
take any,
is a way. Wokeness is a way of putting a police rope around a conversation, make it almost impossible to get in to talk about it.
That's not what I'm doing. I'm saying it's like if you want to have a conversation about abortion, don't start the conversation by saying it's killing a baby.
What is inflammatory about saying? I asked you, how about hurting yourself? You said, well, like you mean like I said, like cutting off your genitals. That's not hurting yourself.
Well, no, because we have other language now.
It's something you couldn't even have done.
Look,
more recently
in terms of
you would have bled out to death.
Look,
we didn't even have the technology for hundreds of thousands of years. This wasn't even an option of something humans could do.
Let me just jump in here briefly and summarize this, if I may. And I think we should wrap it up and put a bow on it.
Put a bandage on it.
But Noam's absolutely right. There's little difference in terms of one compulsion versus another. Both are things that you cannot help but feel. but the way a disease is generally defined is something that that interferes with your quality of life.
Something needs to be treated.
Some well.
Shall I look up disease?
Often it's defined as something that interferes with the quality of life. Now, if having a compulsion to have sex with kids will interfere with your quality of life because you cannot act on it. And if you do act on it, you're harming people. So that's defined as a disease.
Can I read the definition? Disease is a particular abnormal condition that negatively affects the structure or function of all or part of an organism.
That's roughly what I said.
Yeah.
Roughly what
I wasn't contradicting you. I just
So they basically define it as if it interferes with your life, and that's how. Now you can define it any way you like and any way you slice it, but that's how generally it's defined. So if you're transgender and it's not a disease if it can be properly treated and doesn't interfere with your quality of life, I guess.
I don't think it's a disease. What I'm saying is none of this stuff is. I mean, the word. I think the disease is not help. The word disease is not helpful here. All I'm really saying is that we're not learning the lesson that we should have taken from the acceptance of transgender, which is that we need to understand that people don't have a choice in how they feel, and judging them for what they feel is probably not a fair thing to do, including even people who feel urges towards children. It's like judging them is like, what are you going to do? Like, they can't help it. Keep them away from your fucking kids. But you know,
no, God forbid something like that ever happened with one of your kids. I mean, do you think you'd still be saying the same thing?
I don't know if I would. That's not a. I mean, it's like they asked Michael Dukakis if his wife was raped and killed, would he still be against the death penalty? You know, it's like maybe he wouldn't be, but that doesn't mean that's not an argument against the death penalty.
Your analogy?
If somebody molested my child, I would want them dead.
God forbid.
I would want them dead.
Right. Now, your Michael Dukakis analogy brings me back to the point you should be hosting a McLaughlin Group type of show.
Right. Anyway.
But I just want to point out that Noam was making a distinction between the feeling and acting on the feeling. Acting on the feeling is a crime that must be punished in the strictest possible way. But the feeling itself, he's arguing, should not be morally condemned. It's something somebody cannot help.
Listen, if my urge towards females, or Ray Ellen's urge towards females, is uncontrollable. So if I was born in a society where I would have been punished for satisfying that urge, I probably would have taken the chance of getting caught and done it, right? Like,
well, they have medical castration for pedophiles. I mean, that's what they do to a lot. I mean, I think that
the state would do that. Yeah, nobody's going to volunteer for that.
No, well, actually, you'd be surprised. I do think that there have been a couple of cases where people have volunteered.
Well, maybe so.
They can no longer get an erection, and so they can't, sexually abuse kids.
You can sexually abuse without getting an erection, but you probably don't have the urge.
You don't have the.
You say that like you sound like you're saying that with
well, you can do everything.
insight.
You can do everything without an erection. Believe me.
Anyway, why don't we end things up there if we can? Ray, do you have anything to say? Would you like to plug your Comedy Cloud company?
Yes. If anybody needs,
what started off the whole thing last time.
We actually we have 3 new bookings that just happened today. If you want to do a private event on Zoom, a private comedy event on Zoom for your company, for a Friendsgiving, whatever holiday event, comedycloud.co. We've done over 140 of these the past year and a half. It's an outstanding way to connect people, comedycloud.co. And if you're going to be in Aruba, December, January, February, March, ArubaComedy.com. Come to a show. Dan Adam will be there December 19th to January 8th. Prairie Al, you might be coming down to Aruba.
I might be.
You know what it is? If you watch the Michael Jackson documentary,
wait, how do we get in the bed?
Or if you watch, or if you just read about the priests who covered for the other priests who were molesting children, I come away in those examples with much more anger towards the people who facilitated it. And what's the word when you
Perpetuate.
I think the word is end the show.
no, anyway, so like the priests who couldn't resist children, yeah, they have that's their
Compulsion.
that's their compulsion, right? But the priests who covered for them, what's their excuse? Like the people, Michael Jackson had his craziness, right, or whatever. But the people, the whole organization around him, the people who covered for him, that's the moral.
Well, maybe they had a compulsion to cover for them.
Greed.
Well,
That's about greed, I think.
Look,
They
Same
didn't.
thing with Weinstein.
Unfortunately, at the
right?
end of the day, there's no free will and moral responsibility.
enablers. That's the word.
Moral responsibility.
Look at
is,
Jerry
is meaning-
Sandusky.
What's that?
Jerry Sandusky
Anyway, but
from Penn
I was
State.
trying to end things here, Aruba Ray.
No, just because you were doesn't mean we have to.
Well, you said like 20 minutes ago, okay, I guess we're done.
Well, I don't know because we
And then we
had
linger.
so much downtime. I don't know how long the show wound up being.
Yeah, believe me, we got plenty.
All right, so
We got more than
and to
plenty.
be very clear, just on the thing, because Dan wasn't wrong. I was not alluding to, I was not alluding negatively to homosexuality or transgender, anything like that. I was really just trying to say that.
Well, you were making the analogy that we pray that we say you're brave if you have one kind of desire,
Yeah.
and you're disgusting if you have another kind of desire. But I don't.
Yeah, but I wasn't trying to say the previous desire was disgusting.
Right.
I was
You were just trying to say there was an inconsistency.
I was trying to point a line.
You were
and say, like,
trying to say whether you're gay or you like to be shit on. Either way, be proud.
I was trying to make the point, like, Perry, you're so like when somebody's transgender, they're so brave, and they're like, you have someone else who has another urge, like you're disgusting. Like, well, how do you pick which one is brave and which one is disgusting? Like you like.
I mean, pretty easily.
It's.
frankly.
I would think it's brave for anybody to go public with something about themselves that they know will be looked
Well,
askance at, right? That's brave.
That fan that got not only
Fair enough.
not only did he say it with words, but he said it with action. He said, "I like urine on my face and body." And not only am I going to say it loud and clear, but I'm going to do it on stage in front of thousands of people. I don't know who that guy's name is, but he is a very brave man.
He's
indeed.
so brave.
My book, Ira Spiro, Before COVID, is available at Amazon.
I don't know why you haven't done the audiobook yet, Dan.
Well-
That's a dumb thing.
Perhaps so.
Yeah.
But in any case,
Nicole can record it for you. Okay, we got to go. Bye, everybody.
well, no, wait.
You said you wanted to end.
Yes, but we have to end with in a proper way.
Okay, go ahead.
We can't just say, okay, we're going. I mean, we have to have some professionalism after all. And that I don't count that as professionalism. Imperial Ashenbrand's books, On My Knees and The Only Wish I Trust Is My Own, also available on Amazon. ComedyCloud.co. Once again, for all your...
COM, no?
No, CO. We had the
Yo.
for all
In
your,
Colombia?
for all your remote comedy needs, and podcast at comedycellar.com for comments, suggestions, and constructive or maybe not so constructive criticism. Comedy Cellar, open 7 nights a week. We have the best comedy in town. comedycellar.com. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take
All
him
right.
off my TV.